So as you know, or may know, I got a new car a week and a half ago, and the color is Soul Red, SEOL, just like our guest tonight, who happens to be the teaching assistant AI in this course. Sunmi Seol will be presenting, not in red, but in all colors, to understand how mobile learning is transforming the world. In particular, she started with math, but she may be going to show us other disciplines as well. I'm not sure. I saw her slides and they went in this ear and they came out the other ear. I didn't memorize them. So I'm here to learn just like you all are going to learn. And I appreciate the 3 people who have stayed for the entire optional holiday class version of our 622, not 522, 622. I do appreciate everyone who's here with us tonight. And I realize also that we could be doing this on a different night. Now, last year I opted to do Sundays for one of my classes every week. For some people that worked and some people it didn't work. I kind of liked it, but I think Mondays are a good day. Just the only problem is there happens to be a lot of holidays on Mondays. I don't think any more are coming up this semester, but there might be, I don't know. Anyways, Sunmi's going to show us some mobile apps. I probably need to stop blabbering on and on and on. I'm delighted. I'm truly fortunate to have such a intelligent, creative, committed, dedicated person like Sunmi, who is going great. She's almost like a second instructor in here. So our guest tonight, Sunmi, who is going to work on her dissertation project throughout this year and get done, we hope. But Sunmi, why don't you tell us what you're working on, what it's like to work at Stanford, how long you've been at Stanford, so we get that on record. How you got, I'd like to first, how did you get a job at Stanford? Why don't you tell everyone that, the little story? I don't know how did you get a job at Stanford, and what kinds of things you've worked on before you start showing us the mobile apps?
Thank you for actually being here for 3 people. I'm so happy. And let me talk about a little bit my background. Actually, I came here from South Korea, so around 15 years ago. Actually, before I worked as a software engineer for Samsung Electronics, and then I came here to follow my husband. That's because he was a PhD student at Stanford. And then actually at the time, I couldn't find any job. That's because my visa status. At that time, I met Kim, and then he just suggested to join his, research team. That's because he was very interested in my background. And also, even if I worked as an engineer, but I was interested in education. So he really wanted to join me. So actually, first time I declined. That's because I was not sure, if I work. That's because I was not familiar with the English the first time. But anyway, I joined and then I worked with him. And then for the next 3 years as a mobile app developer and also research assistant, and I did multiple projects with him. And Smile is one of that project. And after that,
Sunmi, let me interrupt real quick. In week 1, the last thing in week 1 is the Silver Lining for Learning, Rethinking Education with Great Questions. That's Paul Kim. So if you want to hear more about Paul Kim, and I also in some of the discussions, I put in links to Paul Kim's work. My son worked with Paul Kim in different places on Stanford Mobile Inquiry Learning Environments. That's SMILE.
Yeah.
Stanford Mobile Inquiry Learning Environments. And it's a cross-disciplinary project at Stanford, which has kids ask questions as well as it has technology AI evaluate questions. And they're trying to get kids not to just ask basic facts, but elevate their level of thinking, if you will. I often describe Paul and myself as twin sons of different mothers. Paul likes that. We're kind of similar in some regards, but he's much more brighter than I am when it comes to programming. I don't know, I can't remember anything, but he can program all sorts of things. Plus he knows ed psych, plus he knows ed tech. He's a very brilliant person and a very kind person. So I recommend visiting two people at Stanford when you visit Paul Kim and visit Sunmi. If you ever want to go, take a look at the campus. It's a lovely campus. So yeah, I'm happy to connect you to Paul. Go ahead, Sunmi.
Yeah. Anyway, his background was computer science, actually, before joining to the instructional technology. And anyway,
yeah, and he has an ed psych degree at USC, University of Southern California.
Right. That one is
so
PhD.
Yeah. PhDs and his undergraduates in computer science. And what's your husband's doctorate in?
EE, electric engineering.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, from Stanford. Yeah.
So engineer family.
Yes. So, and then I came back to school in San Francisco State University. So yeah, actually I studied with Dr. Beatty. Yeah, Beatty. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Ryan Beatty. Yeah, famous for high flex model. He's an IU alum as well.
Yeah, I used that program, high flex, before, and after that, actually, I joined the startup educational mobile app startup. So I developed a lot of mobile application for pre-K to second grade, and after that, I come back to Stanford. At the time, just Dr. Kim, actually, Dr. Kim asked if there was some opening, so can you apply for that? And then I joined, and then it passed the 6 year already. Yeah, that's my story. So, and then today, actually, I brought up two interesting projects. Actually, I did a lot of projects, but actually, I chose only two projects. So maybe later, if you guys are interested in more project, at the time I can bring up more project, I think.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you still working for Paul Kim or you work for someone else at Stanford?
With working.
You still do. So you're paid through his project.
Yeah, the first project. The second project is actually with the startup. So actually I chose one and one. That's totally different. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still, he's my boss. Still.
So is the second project near your house, or do you have to commute down to downtown San Francisco for that?
No, actually startup.
Where is the startup located?
Berkeley.
Oh, in Berkeley. That's a long ways away.
Yeah. It's really far away, but actually I worked for that company for around 5 years. So
do you drive?
Yeah, every time. But actually, usually I worked at home. That's the reason why I worked for that company. That's because it was really far. So only 2 times I went there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm sorry to interrupt you so many times. I just need some context here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay,
thanks.
No problem. And here okay. So yeah, okay, finally. So today, let me talk about a formal K-12 learning environment, especially focusing on mobile technology. So,
and this week is K-12 week. That's why I asked her to speak.
Yeah, actually, before talking about your project, I really want to clarify some terms that used for formal K-12 learning. So formal learning, it occurs in a structured and organized environment, the school, just a school, right? And then informal learning goes beyond the limit and constraint and occurs outside of school. So for example, if we are learning the second language using mobile app, it's informal learning. So we can do that every day, right? And then what about the K-12? We heard a lot, right? So K-12, a term used in education, especially in most countries, including United States, and is a public and free education system at the national level before going to the university. So it's just to clarify. And then what about the learning environment design? But this is just I think, okay, maybe you think differently, okay? So learning environment design is kind of a systematic analysis, planning and development, implementation and evaluation of physical or virtual settings in which learning actually takes place. So it's kind of a complicated process, I think, right? So that's it. Actually, I brought two really interesting projects. The first one is SMILE and Stanford Mobile Inquiry-Based Learning Environment. Actually, this picture I took from the actual experiment at the time in 2011. So real picture, not random picture. So actually, really long time ago, actually my daughter, actually not him, my daughter came back from school and then she is doing homework. And then she said that, I don't know, I can do it. I'm dumb. I hate study. So I asked her, what is the problem? Did you learn this concept? She said, yeah. Why can he? Why can she? So I thought, and I got it. So actually she received much knowledge from the teacher in class, right? And after that, just the knowledge flies away. So what is the problem? What do you think? What happened? She learned something, right? Why knowledge flies away? Do you know that, somebody? That's because there is review time. Just she listened to the knowledge, right? And then she doesn't have time to actually save those knowledge in her long-term memory, right? So just knowledge flies away. So I decided to design the new learning environment. So this learning environment allowed the students to review what they learned in class before leaving the classroom. So just I learned and then revisit what I have learned. And then maybe we can have more possibility to save those knowledge in my long-term memory. And then I can remember permanently, not permanently, but anyway, I can understand, right? But I think that how, right? So just to give time, oh, you can read? No, it doesn't work. That's because I think that most teachers just to, give more time to students just to do that. But students don't do that. Why? That's not fun, right? So actually I thought a lot. And then I reflect my past experience, right? So when I was in sixth grade, at the time there were a lot of homework and midterm and final. But I really wanted to play with my friends at the same time, right? So I came up with this idea. Okay, just we are 5 girls and then we can share some questions. So we can create our own question and then we share them with us, right? And then usually I assign each chapter to different girl and then we collect those questions and we serve questions together. And later, just each girl just taught the questions that they created. And then we can save time and effort. Anyway, after that, we can play. So that's a really great idea. So I think that maybe we can, just use this idea for new learning environment. So I came up with the SMILE idea. So actually SMILE is I came up with this idea based on my, past experience, elementary experience. So actually in this SMILE system, students are asked to make questions. And then all the questions are actually given to the activity manager and then send all question to each student's mobile app and serve all question and submit answer to the activity manager. And then finally, a teacher announces a student with the high score and rating. So I can give more detail. Actually, there are 2 parts. The first part is activity management application. The other one is mobile application. So actually, I come up with this idea, but a lot of teachers and parents are concerned with the internet. So I didn't use the internet. At that time, I used just wireless network router, so with Bluetooth. So it works just to really small space. Only it works in one classroom. So I developed the activity manager and mobile apps at both both. And then, the first time actually a teacher started this activity, at that time, all students, mobile app doesn't work. Just to, grade that, I can show that. Actually, that one is the first model of Smile. At that time, just doesn't have a Smile name. Later, after developing this application, we named Smile. Actually, yeah, for, come up with that, beautiful name. The first time is Junction Quiz. That's because actually we implemented Junction feature that developed by, Stanford Engineering School. So we use that one. And then we don't use any internet, just we use Junction. So usually use Bluetooth. And then first to main screen, there are 3 buttons, but all, not activated. And then teacher thinks that, oh, it's ready. At the time, just the teacher click the start to activity button. At that time, automatically the first button is activated and students are moved to the, creating question screen. And then students can create their own question. So usually we recommend just one question, more than one question. And after all students submit their question to the activity manager, at the time, teacher can see that how many students submit the questions. And then all questions are collected. At the time, click the next button, and then automatically students are moved to the serving question screen. And then students use serve questions. So usually at that time, I remember that 20 or 20 something questions. That's because at least one more questions they created. And then after that, actually they send their answer to the activity manager, automatically graded, and then just to show the who's the winner. So actually 2 types of winner. The first one is just a student with a high score. The next one is students with high rating. At that time, we added one feature and asked students, so this question is how relevant and then how helpful, and then you can give some, rating. And then students are interestingly just give the rating and they were really happy. And then actually after the first try, students are really excited with the creating question. That's because they really want to get higher rating from their peer. So that's really interesting. And then we just got some really great outcome. And then did you see the students picture smile, and they really enjoy the this activity. And also this one is really easy to implement. That's because just activity manager and just to mobile app, and then teacher just click every time and then it automatically show, and then every step is just a process. It's no problem, and no internet. Students are not distracted from internet or other something, right? Other interesting, content. And then students actually really quickly understand how to do that. So we are very impressed with their attitude. And then they are, just really enjoy it and then increase the use of inquiry-based pedagogy. And then actually I show some video. Can you hear?
Smile,
Can you hear?
an interactive
Yes,
new way
we
of
can hear.
engaging students with technology that's easily accessible to everyone.
SMILE stands for Stanford Mobile Inquiry-Based Learning Environment. SMILE is a mobile learning management system specifically designed for a classroom environment.
Smile is a tool for students to interact with the curriculum by posing their own questions and entering those into a mobile phone, and they're then sent out to the entire class for their classmates to answer.
I like this because I get to make my own questions and think, like we get to learn from the questions we're making and answer other people's higher level thinking questions and get to use the technology and different method of learning.
It provides technology that we can use instead of just reading and listening to the teacher all day. Some students just drift off and hear nothing and stare off into space. So I think that a cell phone would actually make them learn more.
I wasn't quite happy with the education systems that we have today. And I wanted to know if there's anything that I could do to improve that education systems around the world. where students are freely making inquiries and finding answers by themselves. Students are taking exams with all the facts that they have memorized. That's a pretty typical scenario in the classrooms today. With a Smile, we are flipping that model where students are creating the questions by doing their own research. They are incorporating various images by taking photos and then also incorporating other mobile media.
They're starting to think differently about the topics we're learning. They've always been used to us teachers and educators and parents asking them questions. And now it's them creating the questions. It's very interesting to see how they never thought about creating answers. And it was harder for them to figure out correct answers to the questions. So moving them in that direction does require a lot of interest from them, and the engagement is 100%.
You get to see all sorts of things that you never.
Okay, so if you are interested in it, just to type, Smile Stanford at the YouTube, you can find this, video, and then I can share it with in the chat later. That's which is really long. And then actually I showed you just the Perkins description about Smile system, and then 2 students actually we interview, and then teachers, so they share their feedback about the use of Smile system. And then actually I went there to perform this experiment. Actually I was very surprised. That's because they are really willingly to create more question and more question, something like that. So very interesting. Yeah, the time so one. Yeah, okay, yeah, later I can share. Okay, yeah, after this presentation. Thank you.
Smile.
Oh, just hold on. Okay, sorry.
So Sunmi, are you done with the Smile? You have a second app to show us, right?
Yeah. I can.
So before you do that, does anyone have a question on Smile?
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So, Sunmi, this is Tiana. So who provides the mobile devices? So I know it was a definitely a project there at Stanford, but at the elementary schools, who provided those?
Actually, Motorola actually funded that, devices. So at the time we got 50 devices from Motorola. So we used that one. So actually every time we brought a, mobile device to the classroom, and then we provide.
Okay. So has this been extended to other schools, or is still like something that you all are just doing it in that particular elementary school?
Actually, that one is kind of a pilot study. And after that, we did at multiple places. Actually, we did Stanford, actually, there were graduate level classes, and also, some, partners are in South Korea. So we did at, medical school, so in multiple times we did, but actually I remember that after that, I just left for the school, and then later they created a new version. That one is actually ad hoc version of a Smile, the initial prototype, and then nowadays it is a global version. So you can just go into the Smile website, and then you can create your own caption and then share. And also I heard that there is a mobile version, but that one is a global version. It's totally different. So you have to use the internet. So that one is a really old time version, but I'm not sure right now they are using this version as well. Yeah, that's because I left too. So I have no idea after that.
Yeah, I'm just interested. I mean, I work with K-12 also. It's something I do an outreach here at the Luddy School. And I like how it seems like there's like a paradigm shift on like the classroom environment like that, because even them asking the questions, I just thought it's pretty cool. I'll look into it more, but thank you so much. I'll watch the rest of the video.
Yeah, I can share that link, and then I can share the link as well for Smile Global. So you can,
So if you go to week 1, the last article, which is really the video from Silver Lining, and you click on that, and you look at the blog post I made, below that are a lot of links to Smile resources and videos. So there's more videos than just that one. There are several others. Paul has traveled the world doing Smile with kids, blind children in India, blind children in Dominican Republic. He worked with kids in Rwanda, Thailand. My son went with him Argentina and Tanzania. I mean, so they're using this around the world to get kids engaged in question asking and increase the literacy skills. It can be used with college students too in Luddy building. I'm sure of that, but they added AI to it since Sunmi's initial version, so that the AI system generates questions based on millions of questions inside it, and also can evaluate 5 different. So Bloom's taxonomy has 6 levels.
Right.
This system Paul's developed with Sunmi has 5 levels, from basic facts to evaluation kinds of questions. So, and also you could look up Paul Kim's in one of his keynotes, for instance, and it's, he does. So what surprised me, Sunmi, I thought Paul developed it. You developed it.
Actually, at that time, just Paul asked me to bring some new idea. So I thought of, I worked with the Paul, and then we submit this idea to the model. At the time, we got the scholarship for doing that. And then later we worked with the model to develop some Smile louder for this, system. So later, the first time we used the commercial router, but later we got the Smile special router from the model. And then, as you said, we brought that to a lot of different countries, especially in, just the developing
Latin
country.
America, especially South America.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah,
Honduras, Mexico. Paul is working with migrant worker kids who don't have a school, who don't have teachers. And he initially created the Pocket School Project, where the teacher's in your pocket, the MP3 player. It's in my book, The World is Open. I interviewed Paul for that book, and he's always been innovative. Now, if you ask if other school districts, so they're using it in Palestine, in the West Bank, or they were, and there they got funding from aliens, okay? So Paul uses alien pedagogy. He walks into the Palestinian schools, and he says, aliens have dropped off these mobile devices and I don't know how to use them. Can you figure them out? And so he gets the kids active and engaged to try out the mobile and utilize the features in it to their educational apps are on the mobile devices, but he calls it alien pedagogy. So instead of if you've taken Dr. Kwan's 521, you'll learn the Addy model and the Dick and Carey model and all these models of instructional design. Paul's developed alien pedagogy model. It's really inquiry-based learning. It's inquiry-based learning, trying to get students to solve a problem, right? It's kind of problem-based learning too, and it's student-centered kinds of things. So to answer your question, now, as Sunmi pointed out, they have available as a download. There's a free download for the Smile app. So any teacher in any school can download Smile and utilize it in their classes. And there's a website where you can download the Smile system. And you can even, if you have Google Home, like Alexa or Google Home, I think it works off of Google Home. So you can, you don't need a fancy server. You can use Google Home to run Smile. I think Paul said that to me.
Yeah, that one you do. Yeah, Talk to Smile. Actually, I used that one before. That's because Paul asked me to test it. So actually, if you have a Google Home at the time, just to talk to Smile, and then Smile just to answer. That's because we implemented AI to answer something, something like that. So it was interesting.
I have to ask, are you into hydroponics? Are you into flying planes? Do you fly planes?
I know about a little bit about Smile right now. That's because my job right now is to develop just a mobile app. So that's
I had to ask, because I thought Paul developed Smile, but you developed Smile, and now Paul's talking about hydroponics, and he flies a plane. And I'm thinking, are you really flying that plane, Paul, or is Sunmi flying that plane? Are you really developing hydroponics, or Sunmi? Are you doing all the work behind the?
Just Smile is is my baby. Yeah, in the first place. But
Okay.
after that, I just delivered the, smile, but actually he raised the smile. That's
So-
exactly what I thought.
So why are you studying Canvas discussion groups when you could do a study on Smile for your dissertation?
But Smile is a kind of mobile technology based, but I really want to just see the different side. That's because I realized that a lot of teachers don't want to learn the new system. So they are really afraid of. But I saw that already they have a really good tool. So I really want to recycle the feature. That's the reason I came up with the discussion activity
Okay.
using, Canvas. So
You got
maybe
lots
I
of
tried it.
ideas. You've got lots of ideas. Maybe you can share some of those with other struggling doctoral students who need a dissertation topic. And then help them out for a small fee. Why don't you share the second mobile app, because we're starting to get late here tonight. So show us to do math, and when did you design this, and what's the company you designed this with?
Just hold on, just the G
Yeah.
has question. So can you go ahead?
Yeah, Ga, you got a question?
Ga? Yeah.
Yes, actually a few questions. Does the teacher ever approve the questions
Yeah.
or review the questions?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. That's a really good question.
so,
You know-
so how do you handle the questions that are rejected?
No, actually, students sent their questions to the activity manager. At that time, activity manager showed all the questions that collected, and then teachers can review every questions. And then she thinks that that's not really lower quality at that time, just to, check. We don't use this question, something like that. Yeah.
So does the student know that their question got rejected or end up getting used, or they only access the reading data?
Just, I think the students, served all the collected questions, so they realize that they know that, my
Okay.
questions are not, included to this position. That's really encouraging. That's because, after they think that, I have to make a better question, something like that. And then actually the question doesn't include any, author, who created this question. So that's okay. Nobody knows who created, but
Gotcha.
maybe later they talk to each other. So, it's a known, secret anyway. They're so young and they really, I made this question. So I got the, high rating, something like that. But basically just hide the, author, but they share later. I thought that, yeah.
So I think one factor that I think is important is the motivation factor, which is, you make your own questions, you get credit. So
Right.
the kids like to be in control of their learning. Now, this is where my knowledge is limited. How much of those motivation factors are transferable to adult learners or college students who are upper class, like in business school? I understand people like to learn their own way and everything, but there are a lot of times I think the motivation factors are different when, we're talking about K-12 versus higher education. Is there any like a study that, related to how much of these are transferable?
Actually,
If you ask me.
Yeah, I'm not sure about how many times they, perform this experiment at different, environment. But I did one time with the business school at Stanford. But later, I think the medical school and multiple college level school. But especially, as for medical school, actually that professor said students really love it. That's because medical schools are a lot of, content to learn by themselves. So it was really hard to study by themselves, but anyway, just to share their expertise, their understanding with their peers. So it was a good way, actually, and the students really liked it. But it's kind of, study group. So we always, for preparing some really difficult tasks at the time, we, form the, study group and then work together, right? That's because we want to save time and then cover the more range of, textbooks, something like that, right? It's that kind of concept. Actually, I started, Okay, if you
Well,
have
thanks.
And before Smile, Paul studied the Pocket School Project and won awards for a couple of papers in ETR&D, Ed Tech Research and Development. So if you look up Paul Kim and ETR&D, you might find those studies to be informative. They're not of college students or that you have in the business school, but again, a lot of this work is applicable to the students you're working with, especially Smile. The more advanced AI version of Smile would be, and I could see someone doing a dissertation on that here at Indiana University on a classroom trying to utilize Smile. So do you have another follow-up question, Ga?
Yeah, the one thing that the population I was thinking about is Tele Direct students, which are adult learners online. And one thing I think, not that we're struggling, but every major rating agency or accreditation agency is looking for students' engagement. So this one would potentially get people engaged big time. And then so far, all the major business schools, they're trying to use synchronized, like one of the rating is how many hours of synchronized content. But the adult learners, they're all busy. So the actual participation is kind of low, but if you can anchor something like this and then measure the outcome by how much activity in that question board or how much questions are coming from the students. That's actually a much more meaningful measurements than just like this class offered like 3 hours of synchronized session. Therefore it's better than.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to Roberto, what's his name in the business school, Roberto Garcia. You probably know Roberto, about engagement, and he's speaking on that, and he's got to give a couple talks related to that, and the amount of contact hours is a big issue in the business school these days, and he's wondering, what the conversation is talking about Carnegie units, trying to equivalate, everything's on a Carnegie units, how many hours of contact time would help for accreditation purposes. But online environments are so varied. There's so many different formats and the hybrid and high flex and all this other stuff. It makes it difficult to do a one-to-one comparison because it's not, But yeah, if you could show some tools, whether it's Trello or concept mapping tools or timeline tools or question asking tools like this would probably be the easiest to kind of quantify. People all understand question asking tools and question evaluations and higher order thinking. We've heard of Bloom forever, for decades. So, this is something that it's an educational research from decades ago that generalized, because people all want to raise the level of thought beyond just basic facts, right? We're always talking about that, Okay, so Sunmi, you want to show us the to-do math? And again, the context, where is this to-do math? This is Berkeley?
Actually, this is total math. Actually, this one is, collection of math games developed by Enuma and Company, located in Berkeley. And usually main people are from Berkeley. And then those screenshots actually some of the math games, and then the first 3 games actually I developed, I programmed. So that's the reason I really want to show. It's really beautiful and really interactive and fun. And then I saw my daughter is always crying for math. And then she is smiling at game. And then I just realized that, game can make our children smile, right? So actually I joined this, startup. And then at that time, I really wanted to be mobile app developer and also content developer. That's because at the time, after graduating from the SFSU, instructional technology, so I actually could experience both roles. And then first of all, actually, I showed what total math is. It's really short, introduction video.
Total math.
So can you see that? Actually, this is the collection of a lot of math games, but actually they're not just math games. Actually, we worked with the Loom teacher and PhD student and professor, and then we reviewed all contents. We tried to follow the California Common Core, the pre-K to second grade, actually only cover really small range of elementary curriculum, but it contains a lot of different math games, and then also it provides different features to attract more students to the math concept. So I really liked it. That's because usually my daughter didn't like the math, but she played this game with fun. And then so I thought that, or maybe just I brought the total math to the classroom, right? So I come up with this research question. So can the use of mobile games give a positive effect on students' engagement in the classroom setting? And then I talked to my boss, and then boss said, "Oh, we already worked with the kindergarten classroom at Berkeley, so we contact her, right? And then to explain what our actually plan." And then she was really happy. And then we just started this project, the how to introduce total math to the real classroom. So I really want to make less effort and time to apply, and no additional infrastructure needed, and continuous learning activity. And then students enjoy this activity without stress and preparation. And also, actually, this app contains all content, so we don't need to connect to the internet. Only after the, just to usually hidden, I think that not right now, just usually for research purpose, usually some learning log was uploaded to the server later when internet is available. So usually you can play any game just without internet. So method we did direct classroom observation. That's because targets are kindergarten. So we didn't want to interview, or we didn't want to let them answer the survey, right? Just we did direct classroom observation. But problem is that how to introduce total math. So actually we met just to a Loom teacher, and she explained she already used the some math activity is math center. So usually 1 hour there are 5 different stations. So each station contains each math activity. So usually just math to math games. So just to tangible, something like that, and just to make a paper base or something like that. And then we just introduce total math, one of the math activity, and then we want to see the effectiveness of total math. So we brought the paper worksheet. So we discussed this concept with the classroom teacher, and we chose the one concept, it's just addition, 1-digit addition. So we chose 2 games. So just the domino math and tallies lab. Domino math is, just to make a, number, target number, and then every time just a different slide go and disappear. And then tallies lab is kind of a science lab, and we have to make a flame, right? So to make a flame, we have to make the number. So for example, the bottom part, we have to make a 4, but right now it's just 1 tallies, right? So we have to add 3 tallies. At that time, we can just drag 3 tallies or just 2 and 1. So there are multiple ways. And then we develop some paper worksheet based on those games. So exactly same, similar, layout, but just to right side is the paper worksheet, the left side mobile app. And then we really wanted to just check the checklist of students' behavioral engagement. So I don't want to talk about really detail about this one. And then we got some finding. So actually students really enjoy this one. And then they were more on task, attentive and engaged. And then interesting is that actually after they finished their assigned task problem set, they talked about the problem, that was just so interesting, after they finished their homework kind of, right? But they talked about the question that they played. And then even they ask you, can I do more, something like that? Can I do the next level, something like that? So they are really engaged. And compared to the total math, actually students with the paper worksheet, they actually, after the finishing their work, and then they lie down to sleep, or they talked about their birthday party, and they talked about what they did last week and something like that. So it was really different. So we are very interested in this activity. So we actually listen to what they are talking about. And this new environment actually made a more dynamic and engaging and collaborative learning environment. And then one more interesting finding is that actually there was one student with the special needs. And then according to teacher, actually he usually didn't pay attention to the learning. And then especially for learning math learning activity, he couldn't do anything. So usually he just needed some, teacher's help. So usually just special needs assistance was there. And then she helped him with the finishing everything. But this time, actually, he did by themselves. Actually, he finished all the question set, and then he asked him, so can I do more? Something like that. And then as for the paper worksheet, actually, he didn't finish one of the questions. Even he couldn't solve any question set. And just he gave up, and then just he lie down to sleep. I don't know, but just lie down. Yeah, that's it. So, and then the teacher taught us that, oh, it was really interesting. That's because even, a student with special needs enjoyed this time. So actually he could learn by himself without any help. And then it was kind of valuable, meaningful time for him. So actually I heard that after this, experiment, actually that teacher continued to use Total Math as one of the supplement for math activity. So actually, I wrote the papers about 2 projects, and then you can download these 2 papers. I can share that link, and then you can download if you are interested in those, projects. Yeah, thank you. So if you have any question,
So Ga has a question for you, Ga.
Yes, I just downloaded the link. The interesting thing is, after sign up, it asked me to hold a number for 3 seconds. Is that just to prove that I'm an adult user, or is that
older?
Okay? That's the first. That's
Yeah,
the first time I've seen that. So I've seen similar things, but that's the first time. Like, that's pretty interesting. And the other thing is, I don't know if you can see this. So you see the scaffold,
I see it.
right? So if you see the scaffolds, it's actually like a showing the kid that you should move this 2 into the lines and make it, So is this scaffold on every question, or am I, or I'm in a trial? So it's kind of giving me this scaffolds.
I
Like like right here is showing you that, hey, you should move this too. Is that because I'm answering it too slow, and then they start to help the kids to answer this question?
It's a guideline. Actually, the first time it shows the guideline, but next time you don't see that.
So this is supposed to be for the kids to go through, not for the parents. Okay, I'll leave it for my daughter. My daughter is 6, and I think this is. Gotcha.
So second grade,
So the first time is just showing the kids how to work on the system, like how to work on the UI, and then after this, they're supposed to do this themselves.
Right, exactly. And then I think that there is some options to avoid the guideline, something. I think that but after leaving that that company, they changed a lot. But I think that there is option. So I can share that app. Right now, actually, I very interesting. That's because, they, okay. Yeah. So that one is for parents, so they don't want to, kids just click that sound. That is the, hold the button for 3 seconds, I think. And then go, and there are multiple features. The first one is daily. So it's kind of, just conquering, mastering each step or something like that. So the next one is a free choice. Actually, we developed a lot of math games based on the curriculum. So continuing, cardinality, and something like that. That one is Tally's Lab. Oh, right now, actually, I tested a lot. That one is a free choice, so I can do that right now. Yeah. And then basic operation and advanced operation and mathematical reasoning and time and money and geometry. And also that one is assessment level. Actually, I created this feature before when I worked for this company. So it's a kind of assess the students, performance. But actually performance is really hard, is stressful for a student. So we created a monster. So every time they have to capture different monster after, studying some concept, something like that. And that one is really similar. It's just exploring just a different background, and every time just to console this step and then move to the next step, something. So yeah, there are a lot of things, but right now it's a free version. Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe if you are interested in it, yeah, you can use that one for elementary school students. They are really good. I heard that actually some schools are using this one, yeah, for supplementary, learning material. That's because they are really game based, and also actually design is really good. That's because designers actually worked for a really famous, game company before. So actually their graphics are...
I know it's late. I do have this is very interesting. So I do have a last question. So okay. I've seen a lot of papers and applications that make learning of basic math very engaging, gamify it. But what I haven't read is how does that transfer to something like this? Because, when my daughter's 6, this is good. But when my son's now 14, he's preparing for a boarding school exam. And then if you look at this, that basically that's all this book is one of the books he's going through. It has 750 pages, right? And then he's supposed to finish this by November to prepare for exam. And then rest assured, there is no gamifying of this. So at some point, at some stage, these kids would have to do what we all hate, which is this, right? So then how are we just creating kids with, basically continue to be the game route? Or how, my big question is, yes, I can put my daughter into this game and then she will develop a sense of math that probably be different than me and my son. But then my unfortunate, or I don't want to believe it, theory is one way or another, they would have to meet with this because that's the education system we're living in. So basically, are we just delaying them or are we helping them, transferring them their lives, and so that they will be some sort of, math genius that's going through a happy path rather than the path that we go through? So that's, I know it's a big question. That's where I was kept thinking this whole week. It's
actually, your question is really important question, and that actually I thought the same way. That's because I think that app is for just only only elementary school students. Actually, right. I really liked Jobola from Stanford. Actually, she brought up, just math should be interesting to everyone. So we have to use visualization. I agree with her. But right. Some point, actually, as for the secondary student, they don't have time to enjoy the game like, just learning environment. I think that's because my children, they are both in high school. So they don't like study
Right.
with the game. That's because game are more fun, right? And then they are tons of content, and then it's really hard to contain the game like learning environment contains that difficult, just the content or curriculum. And especially for, math after the, secondary math, I think that just to do it in the traditional way is the best. I feel, just that I have witnessed my children are working on math, just to directly talk to them and then, just to show that, not just using, math app. But I think that you pointed out that important pointing is just to make the young students get interested in math concept. That's because a lot of young kids said that I don't like math, it's hard. So that's the reason we come up with this idea, not for secondary students. So I don't know, maybe other students, other people have a different idea, but
Yeah,
I actually agree with you. Same thing.
That reminds me of my comment maybe 25 years ago on teaching cooperative learning, is that you can have students engage in cooperative learning activities with one teacher, and the next year they're going to have a competitive teacher who uses a competitive model, and flipping back and forth from more engaging, interactive, peer-based learning model, and then move back to a teacher-centered learning model. Kind of would really get them confused, if nothing else. So yeah, it's a difficulty any system faces during the midst of change, and education systems are in the midst of change. They're gamifying, in particular. There's 30 different things that, as I mentioned, that's happening, and gaming is one of the 30 trends. You cannot gamify the whole educational arena in just a couple of years. It's going to take a fair bit of time, and then you got to fight up against the assessments. But the assessments are starting to change due to the pandemic, or what the expectations are in terms of assessments and entrance exams. Some universities have thrown out entrance exams altogether. So there's hope that those thick 750-page practice books, training books, in effect, are going to be thrown out at some point. And what will we hold as valuable then when that happens? What will be the marker of success? That's still to be determined, I think. Problem finding skills, I hope, will be one thing in the digital learning skill era that we need. Tiana had her hand up a long time ago. Tiana, do you still have a question, or has it been answered?
Well, yeah, you and Sunmi pretty much said it, because I was gonna say, I was thinking, this reminds me of when ABC Mouse came out, when your younger kids started, using those systems. And then I think about my now freshman in high school who now loves math. So I think it's like a way to motivate them. It's those intrinsic motivators to help the kid. And then when he started doing mental math, it's just like, I don't know, because when you showed that book, I'm like, yeah, you still want your kid to take like the SAT exam and all that, even though schools are going away with it. It's that knowledge base. So anyway, I just, you answered it, and I definitely had those same questions that Guy had said. Guy, I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your name? I don't want to butcher it, but like what you said.
Yeah, my Chinese contacts, they call me Ge, and then my American contacts, they call me G. So both are acceptable.
Ge, like a girdle in your throat, Ge, or G.
It's more like Greg, but without the rig, just Ge.
Right. Yeah, good.
Okay, thank you.
Megan.
I was just real quick, as the resident math educator in the room. There's, with younger kids, I think I was listening to NPR years ago, and a researcher was talking about how there's a really big problem with elementary school teachers teaching math, because a lot of them are not confident in their abilities, and therefore they're not teaching it right the way that we need it to be taught at those levels to develop those skills that we then build upon. And a lot of that is also understanding right. Well, why can't we just use a calculator to teach 1/2 plus 2/3? Well, because when we get into rational expressions, in pre-calculus, calculus, even algebra 2, et cetera, right? We're doing that with X and Y, and you can't use a calculator for that. So, like, but if you don't realize that that's where it's going, you have a hard time understanding why we need the basic skill, right? So I think having those types of game-based learning, especially in the beginning, is crucial for students just developing an understanding and a liking of math, right? In our department one time a couple years ago, there was this whole thing about, people would never go around and say, oh, I hate reading, or I don't know how to read. Not that they hate it, but like, I don't know how to read, right? But how many people have no problem going around saying, oh, I don't know how to do math, right? So I think if we can develop that using game-based, that's a huge hurdle to then, all right, now we got to go through this book. But as you were holding the book up, I think that there needs to be a movement away from standardized tests, right? We all know what the research shows, but B, if we don't move away from it, at least moving into game-based prep might be the next best thing. But at least at that point, it's not, I don't want to do this and I don't know how, right? At least it's, I don't want to do this, but at least I know how to do it. You know what I mean? When they sit down with all those books, I think if they have that foundation and they like it from the beginning, that's half the battle, right? I think that's more than half the battle is getting the students to like something, because then they'll be willing to sit through some of the more boring tasks to, gain
So
more
this
anyway, that's it.
Yeah, I appreciate all three of your comments. What this reminds me of, I'm watching my daughter's daughter. I didn't say granddaughter. My daughter's daughter, who's 3, play math games, these bubble games, and identify different things and numbers and all this kind of with rolling across the screen. I wonder if it's the same company. And then I also wonder, Sunmi, if you got any stock options in that company and how many your professor's going to get of those stock options if you pass your dissertation. You didn't. Okay. You didn't negotiate well. I'll teach you better next. You've got lots of ideas that are very good ideas and lots of skills that all these companies, ed tech companies need. You're going to be in high demand when you get your dissertation finished.
Can I add something? Actually, and I worked for that company. Actually, I come up with a lot of different game idea based on my experience. That one of game is that, actually I just realized that my student and my children, so, actually didn't understand the problem, math problem, and then, sometimes they read some description about math problem, but they can't convert into the math formula, right? So, and then I come up with some ideas. So just to let students practice that way, just to, read the sentence and then make a math formula, something like that. And then that was really interesting, at that time, just I, make it true, based on my, experience and observation. And also, as for the I think that as for the secondary students, maybe they can use a Smile for sharing their, questions. So actually, I remember that actually before we did some experiment, at that time, it's a kind of, video recording sharing activity. So every student just to serve some math questions, and then some question they couldn't serve, right? At that time, they recorded that question and uploaded it to the kind of video blog. And then other students, and just to explain how to solve that question, something like that. It's a math community for students. And that it worked well. I think at the time, actually that one is a middle school student, I think. And then usually sometimes in math problems, I feel lonely, right? Sometimes just I thought that, only I cannot solve this problem, something like that. But just they freely uploaded some difficult questions, just ask for help. And other students said that, me too, me three, something like this. I don't understand. And then just one really smart student and explained everything. And they're really happy, something like that. It's really good math community. Yeah, actually, I observed that, experiment. I'm not sure right now, this activity is continuing, but, that's one of the examples.
Sunmi, I'll give you a round of applause here. All of us want to thank you for doing this. That was brilliant. I mean, really was brilliant tonight. I'm glad I thought of the idea of you coming in. That was ideal for us. Next week, I hope with William Kanye coming in to talk about maker spaces will also be interesting. I might get Charan Wong, who also worked in the Maker Lab here, maybe to pop in for a few minutes and talk about her role in the School of Education Maker Lab. And she might have something she'd want to share with us. So that's coming up. We're going to have a visitor from the corporate space in Malaysia coming to visit in Bloomington as a visiting scholar, and she's an alum of our program. Her father's an alum of our program, working for Maybank. Her father was an exec at Maybank, may have founded it. So we're going to have Shamim Farouk come in. I interviewed her last week for the Dr. Pawan's International Program Engagement Initiative, and I said, boy, it would be really great for you to talk to our students. So she'll be coming in a couple of weeks. I'm still waiting to confirm someone for week 5, and so it may change. But in week 6, Shamim will be here, and then on we have a couple other weeks that, well, I'll probably have to send you an email all the famous people who will be coming in various weeks down the road. Again, I'm going to stop the recording at this point and invite people to come next week. Please do, if you can, stop the recording. Yes.